Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Brody Moore's podcast. Hey, that's me. Some of you may know me as LiefX, and I've just been sitting down and chatting with people in the Rocket League community, and hopefully we'll expand out to other communities in esports and maybe beyond that if people are continuing to enjoy what we're doing here. And I've loved the suggestions you guys have given of guests to have in the future, and I've actually taken one of those suggestions, and that's who we have on today. On episode 9, I will welcome in Mr. Anchovies. It's Michael Williams. Welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you. One of my most favorite mispronunciations that people have come up with.
What are the best ones so far?
Well, the two most common ones are definitely anchovies and archives.
Yeah.
The best one? I'm not sure if there is a best one. I really only get those two. If there was a best one, it would be something else, but it's happened so rarely I've forgotten it.
Okay, fair enough. I'm partial to anchovies because it's just it's kind of, you calling someone a fish. Actually, my nickname for a while in grade 8 and 9 was Fish.
Out of all things.
What
did you do?
I saw we were on a grade 8 field trip, and I saw a sewer grate, and on it had a fish. You know, there's like the little outline of a fish on it, and I guess I had said bird. And so my friends started saying, also known as fish. And then almost immediately after, the teacher called out my name because I was lagging way far behind in this field trip. And they immediately said, also known as fish. And the nickname proceeded from there on out.
And it stuck.
And
wow.
It stuck for a couple of
years. What a unique bit of timing. Nothing to do with any action or common name related to any name. That's the most unique way to come up with one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one I didn't enjoy. I don't mind most nicknames. That one I was just like, oh, this has nothing to do with anything. So frustrating. But
congrats, Fish.
Chiefs, though, I want to talk to you about a multitude of things. First off, I want to comment, because this is something that just on the RLCS broadcast, when people see you, is you are always looking dapper. You love dressing up, right? And
I do.
And I think some people, I had the question of, do you just dress up on your daily life? And I think the answer was sometimes. You know, you got your sweater on now. You don't look bad by any means, but it's, you know, usually you got that suit or the vest or something.
Yeah. I definitely used to dress up a lot more, I think.
Yeah. What changed?
Just go to the store. Well, what changes, you know, COVID happens, and then you say, I just sit around all day. You wear nothing but sweatpants and shorts for a year and a half. And then you just go, I don't want to get dressed up anymore to go to the store.
Yeah, you give up on that bit. But I mean, it does feel good when you dress up. My problem is the effort you have to put into it.
That was a big part of why I did it, I think, is because at the time when I started doing it, I didn't really have a lot of self-confidence, but it did feel very, you know, official and adult to kind of dress up and be like, okay, I at least feel like I could belong in the working person's world.
But now you exude confidence so much, you're the most arrogant person on our entire team.
Truly. I walk into that dressing room and say, you all look terrible.
Get out of my room. Should see this guy behind the scenes. No, Achieves is absolutely wonderful. Our whole group is actually wonderful. We talk about it a lot, how lucky I think we are, and I've heard this from recently even other production crews and other casters too, and the fingers always get pointed to the CSGO scene, how toxic it can be.
Unlucky.
Yeah. It's just straight up, there was no lag. It was just throw them under the bus. It's terrible. But we actually have a pretty good crew. It's always fun. I'm pretty sure, like, after this recording, a bunch of us are even hanging out. Like, it's to play games. Like, it's a sick group. I think we got real lucky.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's definitely something I've said a few times, or I may have even made a few posts on Reddit replies or something like that. I don't remember, but there's definitely been people who are like, oh, casting's got to be so cool. And it's like, yeah, the job is cool. You know, you go talk about video games, that's cool. But I've always, after having the time to think about it, I suppose, been the avid believer that what really sells me on this job is the people I get to do it with. So I'm totally with you. I don't think this job would be anywhere near as much fun if if we didn't have the people we did working it. So I'm right there with you. We're very lucky that we have such a cool group of people.
Okay. There again. So I mentioned there's a few things I want to get to. One of them specifically is something I just saw today. I believe it was this morning. Just speaking of the COVID, my days are just all everywhere. I don't know.
It all blended together at some point.
Yeah. So for you, I think some people know this. You went to school for music.
Yeah, I did go to school for music for a time.
So is it is the only term I know when it comes to schooling for music is classically trained. Is that what you are?
That is generally the musician's term. You are a classically trained musician. Yeah, you went to music school. They taught you theory, history. Okay. You know, trained you in some instruments.
See, I got guitarists here. Those don't get used. That's all an illusion.
Hey, there are classically trained guitarists. You could be one if you wanted. That is a thing.
That's a lot of effort.
Yes.
Is Wave?
Yes, Wave went to school for music composition. I went to school for music education. So if you want someone to write a theme song or something really cool, you go talk to Wave and he'll do a bang up job. And if you need me to explain some type of concept to you, I can at least give you a fair go of it.
But you ain't right. Well, what's it? I mean, I assume he has to learn a lot of this similar stuff then, like foundations, right?
There's a lot of overlap in all of the musical areas of study, I would say. You know, generally music performers, music history, music education, music composition, they all had to take a very similar core group of classes, at least when I went to music school. You know, we all had to major in some type of instrument. We all had to take music theory. We all had to take music history. And then once you get past kind of that core group, like obviously music education and music performance focused on a little bit more on individual instruments and learning a wide variety of them as well, so you could teach or at least be competent in them. Whereas composition, you really start to delve into a lot more of specific, we compose music classes and stuff like that.
How many instruments can you play then?
Now we get into a funny nitty gritty where I say that I can play 3 instruments.
But you understand none of them. No.
Yes, I can plunk around on a bunch of different ones. That's always I thought that there's a very interesting quote. I don't remember who said it, but they were like, you know, a musician isn't someone who went to music school. A musician is someone who is truly competent in a lot of different areas of music, you know.
Okay.
Because I would be very hesitant to call myself a musician because, yeah, I went to music school and I at least have a rudimentary grasp of music theory and I trained very hard to sing. That was my instrument when I went to music school. I was a singer, so that was my major instrument. But I consider musicians to be people who can be very, very accomplished on a multitude of different instruments and understand a lot of different styles. Like if I could play the piano half as well as I could sing, I could say I play the piano, but I don't. So I don't consider myself a musician. I consider myself a singer. And I think a musician is a very lofty title that I elevate very highly.
Okay, I see a definition now because it's interesting as a lay folk. Like I obviously have nowhere even close to the same knowledge as in music. And to me, a musician is someone that plays music. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it is. But
so, to me, you're a musician. Like,
if obviously I'm talking to people, I'm not gonna sit there and split a hair down the middle.
I'm not a musician.
But yeah, I'm never gonna call myself a musician. You know, people will be like, "Oh, you're a musician." Be like, "Yeah, I play a few instruments." Yeah, that'll be about all I say.
It's interesting because I feel like it's where we each sit on like the Dunning-Kruger scale right now, right? Like I haven't even like gone through like peak Mount Stupid or anything. I'm still at the beginning, like, yeah, look at that guy's a musician because he's took one step towards it. And well, I guess I did play for a few years, but like to me, that's you're very talented and very from even just casually you're playing guitar and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. But to you,
that's always
I'm so far away from that.
That's part of the beautiful part, I think, about trying to get into any sort of profession. Literally doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything from agriculture to lighting in production to
Yeah.
being a public figure or running for public office. I think
Mm-hmm.
it does not matter whatever field that you find interesting. I've found that even looking at a very surface level dive into just about anything, there is a disgusting level of depth to literally
Yeah.
anything. It's like you take something even as asinine as like the playing pitch for the Super Bowl this past couple months, right?
Mm,
You start looking at people and like there's a bunch of different types of grass and how to grow it, and I'm like,
mm-hmm.
dude, there are people who eat grass science up and could absolutely wipe the floor with people on grass-based trivia, and that never crosses your mind on a daily basis. And it's like the amount of things that people know is
Uh-huh.
just bonkers.
And it's interesting because this is one of the reasons I was going to say it wasn't selfishly just because I want to live forever, but I guess it is because it's still selfishly I want knowledge. I don't want to die, and I could just end the sentence there, and I guess most people would probably agree with
Good.
me. But I'm what actually, it's interesting. So what actually kept me going through depression when there were bouts of I want to die was the one thing that actually helped a lot push me through was just my thirst for knowledge, for learning more, because there's so much to learn. And now that's clearly carried through. That's why I've talked to people. That's why I want to have it. So yeah, like there's so much to learn, and I feel like I never want to stop. I have trouble going to bed because I want to keep. I feel like it's such a waste of time.
That is a beautiful sentiment, because that is a very admirable quality to, at least to me, in my mind, to essentially that boils down in my head to curiosity. I think
Yeah,
curiosity is
definitely.
an incredible feeling to really think about and
Mm-hmm.
explore, because it gives you, it keeps your mind very open, I would say. You get a lot of opportunities to just be like, does that work? And then you just do literally anything that you set your mind to, and that's a
Yeah.
lot of fun for me. So I'm glad that that worked out for you.
It's an interesting balance when it comes to that too, because you said it helps you keep your mind open, but it's like I feel like there's actually a tipping point sometimes when you know so much about something that it can almost be hard to then open your mind to a new way of like doing something. If you're like, okay, well this is a tried, tested, proven routine. Here's all the data. We know the science behind it.
Yes,
And someone
experience.
yeah, and a contradictory thing comes up. I mean, you even just look at, for instance, the how you can't consolidate for like theory of relativity with quantum physics yet, right? So it's
Sure.
but both make sense. You know, if you're just into theory of relativity, do you just completely ignore and say, "No, quantum physics is not. It's not real." And I feel like that can happen to anything with grass. You're like, "No, this is the way we do it. This is how we grow grass." And when someone comes up with a new like fertilizer, you're like, "No, it can't be true.
That can't work. Nitrous boosted dirt. No way.
It's so fast."
And then they'll do some scientific study that lasts 30 years, and they'll put out a paper and be like, nitrous boosted dirt does not work. And you're like, okay, great. But at least we did the research.
We found out. Yeah, no, it's I feel like that's have you ever found yourself in a situation where like you had to check yourself to say, no, wait, hold up, keep your mind open here, because you thought you knew something had to be this way, and then it turns out maybe you still were right, but you still had to catch yourself of being like, no, I was almost just shutting someone down without even listening because I thought I knew it better or something. I'm sure we've all done that, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think the last part of that question is closer to where I might have experienced that sensation.
mm-hmm.
Because I feel like, generally you can read about or watch some type of informational content about something and
Mm-hmm.
at least understand some things. But the most times I found myself catching myself being like, whoa, wait, hold on, you have to stop and and at least consider this for a second, has definitely been interacting with other people throughout the
Mm-hmm.
course of my life. Because, everyone that, I would say goes to school or something at least has some form of similar, experience
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another. But the one thing you can never account for is other people, right? And they all have this wide web of experience and how they interact and see the world. And that, you know, doesn't necessarily color my perception per se, but interacting with them, you start to pick up on those differences. And even if they're incorrect or you're incorrect, that's where that I think sensation has happened for me the most is you have to stop and be like, well, hang on. I don't know if I agree, but I need you to expand more on what you're saying because I just don't get it or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's so because I feel like doing that's also an admirable quality because a lot of people don't want to take that time to listen to the other person and find out that he's like, no, I know it. And I'm curious what you think about this. That until we have some sort of way to see, feel, and understand the perspective of someone else, we're always
empathy machine.
Yeah, we're always going to end up in a world that's divisive, right? Because life is gray. It's not black and white, right? There can be right ways to do something. It just depends on how you like to approach it. How do you feel about say for instance we get the ability to put in like a Neuralink or something,
the Cyberpunk 2077 jack into someone's lived experience
and feel that because essentially you go Borg and you live hive mind, right? But like, do you feel like that's better because then we truly have an understanding of each other, but then of course you lose individuality probably?
That is a robust question. I think all things considered, at the very least, the positive side of that would be forced experience of empathy, which I would not consider necessarily a bad thing per se. I think that empathy is something that, I would say most everybody has, bordering sociopathic
to some degree, yeah.
type of something's not wired right in your brain. You literally can't process it.
Yeah.
I think, at least in my head, offering people the opportunity for the experience would be like, if you could literally walk a mile in my shoes saying, I think that would be, for the most part, an incredibly powerful sensation for a lot of people. And I think that everybody's sense of self, I'm not sure if it would truly be diminished because people are going to come out of that and they're going to be like, at least I understand, but they're still going to want to do their own thing, right? So I don't necessarily feel if it would lose any bit of your individuality. And if it did, at least for me, I think the trade-off would be very worth it. I would totally do that.
Yeah. No, I love to give you my side. I'm very much on the side of being able to have those shared experiences and knowledge. I mean, like, imagine it's like the Matrix. You're just like, hey, let me quickly download your entire 4 years of university. I know Kung Fu. Right? So it's, to me, it seems highly efficient, but I guess then you also get to the point of like how do unique individual perspectives help us come up with solutions to the problems we have because we can approach it from
100%
different angles.
You don't even have to think necessarily through an empathy standpoint to see that for happen. What's the biggest driver of scientific technology throughout the course of human history, Leif?
Dogs.
War.
Oh, okay.
War, conflict, opposition, people's conflicting views has driven scientific technology throughout history. The biggest
nuclear
advances
energy.
Yes, they all happen in times of great strife and conflict. So obviously, that doesn't necessarily have to do with considering your fellow man, but you have to admit that conflicting points of view do make progress. And be that a crass example, it is true. I think that, differing experiences, while you may disagree one way or the other, they do create progress.
Yeah, that's it. So do you think conflict is almost necessary for humankind's advancement, or do you think there's a way we could say, okay, well, let's put a bunch of training dummies over there. How do we kill those instead of each other?
I think we would certainly be able to achieve more if you put the collective consciousness of humankind on one side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I think, I guess to answer your question, conflict, I would say yes, it's probably necessary for some type of growth.
Okay.
Because if you simplify that down to the simplest example, uh, like what does that look like? And I think if you put a person in a room with all potential needs met, food, shelter, water, uh, at least basic needs for
Mm-hmm.
survival, and no other challenge to overcome, that person will just sit there in a room and survive, right? And nothing will be done. But if you say there's a person in a room and food, water, shelter, and a locked door, and there's a way out of this room, I think at that point the human being sees the door as the object, the conflict to overcome.
Okay.
And then the problem solving mechanisms start happening and you find ways, you will advance to find a way to continue.
Well, I wonder then on that concept, and I guess it would still be. Do you feel like maybe creativity arises from conflict itself, of the
Yes,
conflict
absolutely.
of boredom? Because I mean, I think that person that sits in the room, even with an open door, is eventually going to start doing something, whether it's just talking to themselves, whether it's trying to draw on the walls, whether it's leaving because it's not locked, and then looking at stuff and then maybe writing it down or coming up with poems. I feel like creativity would be born from.
But you have no
boredom.
concept, right? Like imagine, like strip it back, right?
Okay.
If you drop a person who has no concept of art or writing or speaking or anything like that, right? It's literally just your bodily processes are going on and you're not dying.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't,
I mean, the first drawing had to be made at some point, right?
yes,
Like
the first drawing did
caveman
have to be made, but how does that first drawing happen?
boredom.
They sit there. Exactly. They sit there in some caveman-esque, part of the world, surviving off berries and running after mammoths for hours and days on end.
That's
And
not
then
too much
someone gets a
different
little
from my
bit on
day.
their thumb one time and accidentally smears a wall, and they go, "Huh, that kind of looks like something." And they say, "What if I did this?" And it's like I don't necessarily think anything of that happens, if you don't have outside driving factors,
Okay. Yeah. Well, now we need to put someone in a room, forget a freshborn baby. Put him in
Let's create a massive, ethically unsound, horrible. This is like all those famous experiences where they're like they were horribly unethical, but boy did we learn a lot. Like,
Yeah, right. Well, I wonder if that's where it's probably way too far off from that. I was going to say, I wonder if that's where simulations in AI can take us and do these experiments that in a digital world rather than doing it. But then you'd have to simulate a human being from birth to adulthood in a room and know what that is, which is nigh impossible.
Where's our empathy machine?
Yeah. Right.
Download your empathy machine, give it one person's lived experience, jack it in, and say, "Okay, play."
Okay. So before I move on, because I have something kind of on topic here. What would be the boundary for you being able to experience everyone else's experiences? Like, for instance, from going as far as you will lose all mobility for the rest of your life, but you can experience everyone else's experiences.
Well,
Like, where would you? Would a chip in the brain?
I
Would you even
suppose
go that
personally,
far?
for me, it would be the choice, if that makes sense. I would
Okay.
have to be able and willing to choose to experience people's experience.
Yeah.
Because if I cannot choose to view people's experience, then at that point there's no. How do I describe this? It's not like I would want to just walk around every day and be like, "Oh, that person across the street, I wonder what they do." Boop. Like I wouldn't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
I would want the option, to, converse with people. I
Yeah.
would view it as a problem-solving tool in my head. It's like, okay, say you're having some type of breakdown with a close family member or significant other, and then then you can be like, okay, hang on, we need to
let's shake
understand
some
where we're
hands
coming
here,
from, yeah, and find some type of common ground. I would view it as that, and if I didn't have that type of availability for me, I think I would turn it down, because it would just be too much. It'd be too much stimulus for me if it was just. It's like Three-Eyed Raven from Game of Thrones. It's just like, nah, dude, I don't want to completely lose myself.
Yeah, that's actually a concept I always thought about, of people that can see into the future in like shows and whatever it is. The people that have a little glimpse, seers, I guess. I feel like that'd be a world or Mantis from the MCU. That's a world I don't want to live in, because like. You get lost of all the possibilities of universes and futures. And
is Doctor Strange really Doctor Strange anymore? Or is he just someone who says this one, and he's at the whim of his own desire?
Yeah. It's just it's a force that cannot be stopped at this point. Yeah, being able to. I think you're right. Being able to live in the present and away from in your own little box from time to time is important. I think, as we said, to creativity and progress as well. All right, on AI, I wanted to show you something. This is what I was testing. So I'm gonna have to share my audio to you for a second. I actually was accidentally doing this at the beginning of the recording. So if people were listening and you heard some weird audio at the beginning, that's why I forgot to turn this off. So hopefully this will be fine for you guys. But I wanted to show you. Back kind of to the music is Google released I believe it was today, a paper where they've been able to do text to music AI generation now. Okay. And those clips I was showing you before, you said they sounded blown out. It was all AI generated. And I'll give you the prompts that happened before and what it generated. Now, this was doable before, but the issue with AI is after even a few seconds, it loses coherency. Like it forgets what it's done moments before.
Okay.
With Google's new paper.
Goldfish memory music.
Yeah, really. Yeah. What Google's been able to do now is get songs even up to 5 minutes long with coherency. And let me switch my scene. So if you're watching on YouTube, by the way, this is on Spotify for anyone who is watching on YouTube. We have it on Spotify now. But if you're on Spotify, you're going to miss the visuals here, but you should be able to have the audio just fine. So I do believe this is the one to send to you. And if it's too loud or anything, please let me know. But anyways, yeah, so for instance, this was, let's look at this one. They gave it the text: slow tempo bass and drums led reggae song, sustained electric guitar, high pitched bongos with ringing tones. Vocals are relaxed with a laid back feel, very expressive. Now, it doesn't do words, but it does do melodies. And I'll hit play here and let me know if this is too loud for you. Just give me a thumbs up or down once I hit play. So
that's good.
Right? All from text generation.
I'm amazed it came up with that with no defined. Well, it obviously must have been trained on.
It has training data of some sort, right? Yeah, but
the fact that it put all the instruments in the same key is amazing to me.
Here's another one. The main soundtrack of an arcade game. It is fast-paced and upbeat with a catchy electric guitar riff. The music is repetitive and easy to remember, but with unexpected sounds like cymbal crashes or drum rolls.
Okay. There's your unexpected sound.
Yeah, and it's just intriguing that they have a bunch of different examples of this, even up to epic
Oh,
music.
I gotta hear the epic soundtrack. I gotta hear it.
Orchestral. Okay, we'll throw. So that one is epic soundtrack
Builds
using
tension.
orchestral instruments. The piece builds tension, creates a sense of urgency. An a cappella chorus sing in unison, creating a sense of power and strength.
Okay, so that. Huh. Not what I was picturing.
Interesting.
I was picturing, like Carmina Burana 042 and a bum, bum,
Okay,
bum,
yeah.
bum. Like that's what I was picturing.
Either way, and I even for me as a non-musician, well, I guess according to your definition, you're also not a musician, but is it? I could still say there's no real sometimes distinction between instruments and clarity. It's more of the feel, but the fact that it is getting that close for extended periods of time is intriguing to me. And I'm just curious, what are your initial thoughts that now a machine is creating music from text?
You pull that all the way back to the quick. It's just, do you think AI art generation is a good or bad thing?
Yeah.
Is what that boils down to. I think in its current form, like any AI generated stuff, I think it is a marvelous brainstorming tool.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it comes to music or paintings or any type of creative endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
the hardest part, at least for me, I feel like is coming up with something that I have a firm grasp on where I want it to go.
Yeah.
And like coming up with that idea, I think can be made much simpler or at least easier. Like I don't think you're ever gonna see, obviously I think there will be gimmicks, but like I think I find it highly unlikely that you will ever find like a full feature length movie with entire scores of music written for the entire piece by AI. I don't think that, at least in its current form, that's really possible.
Everyone get this clip and hold it in your time capsules and wait for the moment
in
it
its
happens.
current form,
Okay,
not
yeah.
possible.
Of course, in current form, yeah.
But I do see it as a very good way if you are a music composer and it's just like, man, I want something that feels epic and grandiose, but I've written 5,000 pieces of epic and grandiose music, and your brain is just exhausted from having done it that many times. And you just want to say, look, I want to type epic, grandiose AI music, orchestral score, and have it spit out 20 different things. And maybe one of those 20 things is be like, okay, I like that idea. And that at least gives you a starting line. And then, you can rely on your own personal experience.
I mean, you think about it, it's still taking the input. Like, it still needs that input of, like, what sound should I go for, right? Like, it's not saying, hey, it's not deciding I'm going to make this thing.
Yeah, that'll be the day. AI,
well, that's
AI
an AGI
automatic
at that point,
movie score generation when it says, okay, we're not going to play any music. We're just going to put a movie on screen and the AI is going to write the score for it off of the input.
Can I blow your mind one more time here? Because that might be a bit closer than you think. Let's jump back to this.
No.
I'm going to scroll down here, and they were able to feed it paintings, and it was able to create sounds. Some of these weren't the best, but the Starry Night was actually, I think,
Van Gogh?
Generally a pretty good one. I'll show you the song.
And it created a song based off of the painting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they used the description as well as I'd have to... It doesn't give a description here. There's a description here, but it really doesn't say what the music should sound like. It just describes the painting.
Yeah.
Right? It depicts the view from the east-facing window of his asylum room, yada, yada. So it doesn't indicate, okay, I want this to sound like a punk rock song, right?
I'm imagining what database they trained this off of, and I'm having to, in my mind, if I were to guess what the prompt was, they probably fed it Starry Night, and then they probably looked at associated searches with stars and the keywords that people put with stars, mystic, type of space, type of, very open, broad adjectives, and then it created a song based off of those keywords, if I had to guess.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they fed it strictly this description and maybe the image as well. But
how does it?
So this is what it came up with, by the way. Let's give you.
Oh, a little bit of Claire de Lune there. Oh, this totally has Claire de Lune written all over it.
Which, in my opinion, though, that is a Starry Night.
Wow.
Which is so. If it's taking just descriptions, and again, I have to find out. Someone in the comments can give us some more info if they do know this, but this page specifically doesn't. I'd have to read this paper itself, but.
That definitely got trained on some Debussy. That's for dang sure.
I just think it's interesting what they've again tried to just even specific sounds like places. What does the gym sound like? Beach in the Caribbean.
Oh, if it's not steel drums, I don't believe it.
Let's
What's beach in the Caribbean?
Let's explore this together. A little messy, but okay. These are only 10-second clips. Escaping prison.
That's a stealth breakout.
That's
prison
a breakout.
Riot?
Yeah. Here's the gym. A little top 40 kind of vibe.
No way I'm working out to that.
Well, I mean, I'm a metal guy, so I'm going metal, but opera. It almost sounds like a reversed vocal track.
It's like they had no idea how to actually write opera, but the structure is correct. It's just like whimsical line, piano fill, whimsical line. It's like, yeah, okay, that tracks.
Do you want to try some accordion death metal? I expect this to be terrible.
What? Just to make sure I heard you right, you said accordion death metal?
I did indeed.
Okay. Oh, I needed that to go on a little longer to really feel that accordion start to riff. I wanted accordion chugs.
That's too good. Yeah, just I wonder. But again, the fact that the one last thing I wanted to show you is again its coherence on longer things too. Just I thought this is pretty intriguing. Whereas here it is, just like a relaxing jazz. And then skipping in a minute just to hear a bit of that holds together.
Now, if you go forward to 4.5 minutes, is it a different instrument playing? Structure is very sound. It's just like, okay, we're gonna play in this key, write some type of bass line, write some type of very simple drum track, and then we're just gonna have segments of each instrument riffing for a minute. That's very classic. And we're gonna go place a jazz jam, and everyone's gonna have their turn.
Yeah, it's just interesting how it holds together. Again, it doesn't just morph into something. what they call hallucinations or dreams.
Yeah, we'll have to
for
get
the AI.
some music theorist. It's called theory analysis. We're gonna do some key analysis and see if if the AI used the same motifs across them or not. But probably not. If I had to guess.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But again, that's the fact that you can. I think it's the way the pretty much exactly what you said is just for me and even creating, like, I've been using some of the text generation stuff to help start an idea or structure at least a script for a YouTube
Now,
video.
here's the real question.
Yes.
Did you go into this interview and say, interview questions for a person who knows about this, this, this? And ChatGPT said, here's a list of 20 questions.
Funnily enough, not for this one.
Ah.
I did, however, if I do get Jorby on, I did that for Jorby. So all of his questions are AI generated.
That's great.
So that yes, this I just figured he's if anybody out there doesn't know Jorby's very much intrigued by scientific advances and specifically
he's
lately
a man
AI.
of many passions, and he has the time, patience, and diligence to explore all of those realms.
Here's the thing. I wonder if it's the opposite. I think it's an ADHD thing of I'm just gonna go ham for 2 weeks straight on this one topic and absorb as much information. And then after 2 weeks, give up and move on, right? But
and then you come back in like 5-6 months, and you can be like, okay, hang on, I want to keep
new?
digging and see how that's going.
What's
Or you take your 2.5-year break, and then you come back for 2 or 3 months because you're like, hang on. It's a cycle. That's how people like Jorby and myself, and I'm sure many other people operate. Is we jump from hobby to hobby. It keeps us engaged mentally.
It's really hard though, because with how fast just this technology specifically is advancing, it's becoming very difficult to I guess keep up with things,
Sure, yeah, of course.
I think this is how older generations are, again, obviously exceptions to everyone, technically or technologically illiterate, right? And I think that's actually why we're seeing that with the newer generation, is that these people operate and they know how to navigate UIs, but they have no idea the underlying technology, that if something, because everything is built on the thing before, right? So if you skip a step, you might not understand step 3 if you don't know how step 2 operates, because step 3 is reliant of your understanding of step 2. And I think UIs are the same way. When you're watching a video on Reddit or like something on your phone, whatever, that say it's a pop-up and it overlays what you're looking at, that you can either click outside of it or swipe it away and it goes away. But those actions, no one ever told you
They're
really
not
to do
intuitive
that, right?
to a certain generation.
Right. You would, so one generation might think, well, if I click off the video, it's going to pause it or something, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how those actions of navigating a user interface are built off the things before, and I think that's where that illiteracy can come in. So with any hobby, if you're taking a 2-year break, it could be overwhelming coming back.
Changed.
The fundamentals are different at that point. And I actually we've seen it with the newer generation too, where they're getting worse with technology in a way.
It is kind of I'd never considered that as a potential option, because I always just assumed. Actually, that's not true. I was considering it today in a very weird
That's not true. I was 5 minutes ago. I was thinking
in a very weird roundabout way. I got a scam email.
Okay.
And it was like, hey, your Geek Squad subscription is going to renew for like $400 some odd. Contact us at this number. And I'm obviously like, well, Geek Squad doesn't have a subscription service, and I know you don't have anything, so I can safely delete this. But that got my brain working in a very intriguing way.
Okay.
Of how do you educate the future generation on technology literacy? because as you mentioned, you and I at least, we grew up right at the dawn
Explosion
of
of it all,
the
yeah.
information age. The internet was just made right when we're very small children. And we literally started from day one. We have the experience. And I was thinking, if I had a kid, how would I educate my kid on safe practices, regarding ads, scamware, phishing, all of that stuff to a small child? And I realized I had no answer at all. Like me, who feels fairly confident and technologically sound and navigating those things, I realized that I would not know the first place to begin to be like, here's how you get around this terrifyingly powerful tool safely.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, now that makes a lot of sense that newer generations are probably not as technologically adept because we don't have good tech teachers. It's not technological literacy is not a course that is taught. You have the fundamentals of just about every discipline taught in some form of schooling in some way, but technological literacy has only been relevant for 30 years. Like, we haven't had time to develop a discourse around this type of thing. So I was like, that's a very intriguing question, that a problem to solve. I if I was having a kid, I would be terrified. Is what I'll leave that at.
Yeah, it's because knowing something and then being able to teach it or convey that knowledge in an understandable way to someone that doesn't know is a completely different skill.
Yes,
it's something I've always loved trying to do. Is how can I explain this to someone as if I was just learning it?
It's one of the best ways to shore up gaps in your understanding as well, because it forces you to re-examine the material.
And one thing I've also always done is make sure to remind people of how I misunderstood something, because there's a possibility that person is also
hung up on the same thing.
Yes, and saying, well, it's okay that I have this misunderstanding. If he eventually got it, then I can eventually get it too. And you can figure out how to maybe avoid that misunderstanding in the first place. But it's not something that inherently people enjoy doing, teaching things to other people. Some people see it as a burden, so they'll take the shortcut. They'll take the short route and they won't teach it. And then there's also the idea that how can you properly teach something unless you fully understand what that thing is, right? Like
because then you get scam universities who charge you $40,000 a semester, and they have people who are reading the textbook for the first time teaching you how to code. Like, okay.
Oh God, I went to school for computer programming, and I had one teacher straight up. You could just not go to his classes because his slides on the lessons were straight excerpts from the book we already had to buy. And
page 236, paragraphs 2 through 6.
And usually, well, here's the thing. That could be fine. If he used that just as a guideline for his lesson, he would just read word for word.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, verbatim, like, okay, class, today we're going to be talking about HTML formatting, which is... this is how it works.
The worst, not... I wouldn't say worst, but there was more layers of this, was that you would start working on a project. It's college, so it's more hands-on. We would actually be at our computers, less theory, and just doing it. And if you had a problem, you'd call him over and he would look at your computer, and you know what he would say then almost every single time was, if you have to ask the question, you're not ready for the answer. That helps a lot.
Wow. How does he get a job?
I don't know.
Right,
Yeah,
because that place shouldn't be hiring people like that. That's one of the most irritating parts.
Yeah, I wonder if he's still there. I think half of our class complained, at least.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. Honestly, you should all complain to the dean and get him fired.
It was not good. Yeah, you could just read the textbooks at home, and half the class stopped showing up because they would just do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't show up to that class. Heck, I had good teachers in college, and I didn't go to class.
Achieves the rebel. He's out there on the streets causing trouble, a ruckus.
No, along with curiosity that I find is very powerful. The other powerful tool, at least when it comes to in specific teaching, I think the most valuable element is passion.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think
mm-hmm,
about
mm-hmm.
at least some of my favorite people to at least listen and interact to, people like Bob Ross or Steve Irwin, all of those people who,
Genuinely
Bob
care.
Ross. Yeah, you watch Bob Ross, and yes, he does the same half-hour painting show every week, and yeah, he's painted thousands upon thousands of landscapes. But the whole point is every single time he gets up there, he says, "Hey, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna have a good time." And I'm going to show you how I'm doing this, and I'm going to show you how easy it is, because it looks really hard, but I promise you can do it. And he's going to do that over and over and over. And he never gets tired of it because he loves what he does. And that's the most powerful thing as an instructor, is to really enjoy what you're doing, because people respond. People have their mirror neurons just firing when people can tell that you're invested in something.
Yep.
They want to listen to it because they can tell you're enjoying it. And so they know you really care. And people can dial in on that. And that's a very powerful tool when you can tell people like what they're talking about. That's how you really draw people in and get them to pay attention and engage with whatever concept or story you're trying to tell is.
And it's like, to give an example of that on the side of teachers, I had a teacher in grade 11. I think I took his class again in grade 12 for just computer science. I mean, we were taking computers apart. We were building computers. It's high school stuff, but we weren't actually like, putting that. We were doing soldering and stuff. But we weren't manufacturing silicon or anything.
It's just like, here's how we connect a circuit.
And that teacher, very definitely ADHD as well. You get him. He'll always come in with a news topic at the beginning of the day, and then if you got him ask the right questions, you could get them go the whole class. But I also learned and carried over a lot, to the point I actually had this was when I actually started trying in school, grade 9, 10. I just tried to maintain a pass of 50s, and that was
got through it, baby.
But then they're like, college looks at your 11 and 12. So I'm like, okay, I should try a little bit.
Yeah, I got to try.
And so mad, I had a 79.9 average. 80 is honor roll, where you can start getting.
Leaf, buddy.
Yeah, I was mad they wouldn't bump it up. Anyways, I had the highest score though in the school for computer science, because I really connected with this teacher, because it was very passionate. And I actually years later went back and talked to him and said, "Hey, I got a broken PlayStation. Can I use some of the tools in the workshop here to fix it?" He's like, "Sure, come on in and use it." And like the fact that I was so involved and excited to put together computers, even years later, I was still dealing with my own electronics, taking them apart, resoldering, reseating CPUs.
You learn stuff when you listen to people who you enjoy listening to. It's amazing.
Yeah. So if you're out there teaching, anyone's teaching, care about what you're teaching.
Care about what you're teaching. That's
stop it.
Hard part. If you are an educator and you teach at a school because they brought you on to be a coach of some sports team, and you just teach communications or something, I'm sorry, my friend. Your students deserve better.
Yeah.
Granted, that's an overly harsh indictment. You could be an excellent communications teacher for all I know. I don't know, but in general, it's the ironic double-edged sword of education, at least in American schools, is teachers don't get paid enough money.
That's
so obviously
true.
You don't
care.
get
Yeah.
If you make $30,000 to $40,000 busting your ass for 100+ kids every year, no days off, because those weekends, are you telling me you're not sitting there grading and coming up with lessons plans for the next week? You're dead wrong. Yeah. You're working every single day. You play babysitter, you play educator. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no wonder you get a bunch of teachers who suffer from burnout because they don't get paid enough.
And it's there, because obviously the devil's advocate statement to that as well. It shouldn't matter how much you paid as long as you enjoy
only
the
truly
passion.
Passionate teachers will teach, but you already know that in the practical world that's not true.
No, yeah, and it's not like, I only care about my job because of the money I'm being paid. It's the fact that there's external stressors have is like, okay, I can barely pay my mortgage. I got my own kids. Now I'm dealing with kids all day is stressful.
It's
if you didn't, 30 of them in a class. And
Just a little bit of student teaching for me, and I was like, man, I work in a liberal art, and this is tiring.
yeah. I went back for volunteer hours. I had to get them for a college credit, and I went back to my K to 6 school, and just helped with as like a student liaison. What I don't know what it was. I was just helping the teachers do stuff and rally the kids and stuff. And it's a lot. It's fun. It is rewarding in its own way. When a kid comes up to you and shows you something they worked on and is proud of it, that's really cool. But it's also, there's a lot other things to kids than them being proud of the work they just made. There's a lot of screaming and yelling.
Yes, there is. It's the fine line to tread between disciplinarian and someone who wants to really engage with their students and make sure they enjoy the learning process. Because as you alluded to at the very start of this, learning can be fun. It's that type of feeling is cultivated in specific environments. Because if you have authoritarian dictators in the head of every class, well, no one has any fun, and then they don't enjoy the learning process, and then you're building sense rebels. Of curiosity is dampened through, honestly, the rest of their life. It's a tragic thing.
Yep. I'm curious. Kind of, you don't have to divulge all your life plans here too, but mention of if I have a kid. Now we're talking about kids here, but I also know like at least from everyone's perspective, I think of you is when it comes to social media, you're a little more quiet than some other folks. Yeah, you're. So is this something of a choice that you've made to pull yourself away? Is it something that's just always been like you're just always, hey, I just want to have my time as my time?
I never really latched onto the social media thing, when it was growing up. I recognize that in my line of work, which is what makes it interesting. Yeah. I probably stand a lot to gain from, utilizing social media in a way that would benefit me. And I certainly am in a position where that could happen. It's a little bit of just like, I don't necessarily care enough to do it. I get, and perhaps that's a little bit of my own short-sightedness. Like, yeah, I could sit there and tweet every day at peak times to get maximum engagement and boost followers and kind of build the brand, so to speak. But what reason do I have to build the brand if I don't even stream? Like, what reason do I have to build the brand if I don't even really talk about product that you're any sort of product to sell people, or anything like that? The social media marketing brain inside of me says you don't peddle anything to anybody specific that can use this. And again, that's probably my own short-sightedness, right? It's I would stand a lot to gain, because say I don't work in the RLCS, well, then having that backdrop of followers just could potentially be incredibly valuable. Yeah, right. But at the same time, I feel like for me personally, the influencer social media route type of thing is just not for me. I gave streaming a decent go many years ago at this point, and I didn't enjoy the general unwritten social contract, if you will, that has kind of permeated throughout streaming culture. Okay. The idea of parasocial relationships and unwritten expectation and stuff like that, it never felt good to me, because I if I didn't work RLCS, I would feel obligated to monetize my Twitch stream. And if I did do that, I think I would have to make some big changes in how I went about operating my Twitch stream, and operating it the way I would want to, which would be very freeform, like sitting here talking about whatever pops into my head, having a good time and being trash at video games. That would be pretty great. But that comes with all the, expectations that people put around that, and having to regulate and structure that is a lot of work. And personally for me, it's very tiring in the same sense of, it felt like being an extrovert inside of an introvert's world. if that makes sense. Because my office and my home is kind of that's my space.
Yeah.
And if I have to sit there and actively engage and try and entertain people, in that very direct sort of dynamic, it's literally like going to a party. Like I enjoy parties, don't get me wrong.
But doing it day in day, I would have to go to a party every single day.
I'd have to go to a party every day. That would just run me into the floor.
Yeah, of course.
So Twitch streaming, that's part of why I don't do that. But not tweeting on social media is just, it's not an extension of that mindset, if that makes sense. It's kind of just like, I mean, what would I use my Twitter for, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tweet that Fury just beat whoever in the semifinals. Great. All my coworkers did that too. I don't have to say it.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because that concept right there of, well, someone else is doing it, so I don't need to as well. But I do wonder if there's oversight on, sure, you might be covering a similar topic, but your perspective of that topic kind of comes back to the idea of, again, having that individuality and not sharing our brains in a hive mind scenario allows for those unique perspectives. And maybe you do have a perspective people want to hear.
Perhaps I do. And also on the other side of the coin, perhaps I don't.
Sure.
It's I at the moment don't see a lot of value in actively building a Twitter following or an influencer following, just because I am not the type of person that would thrive in that environment, and I don't do it because my private life is my private life or anything like that. It's just that's not a route that I am passionate about and I would want to engage with. And if people can tell I don't want to engage with it, then what's going to happen?
Well, the good thing, first off, is that you have a lot of friends around you that do create content. You could just poke into their content here and there and remain relevant.
This is very convenient to show up here. This is great.
You do all the work. I'll show up. Look, building my brand. And then
YouTube would be a much better avenue for me. It would be whatever content I wanted to curate and present however I wanted without.
Would it be Rocket League or something else? Because Rocket League, this is the only Rocket League content I can do, and it's barely even that because I just burn out from doing it too much.
I'm sure I could do some Rocket League YouTube stuff, but again, that's a very saturated arena. And again, I do enough analysis for work on my own time that I don't want to sit there and make a YouTube video about it as well. Yeah, maybe there's some value in my opinion being out there, but I feel like I get most of what I want to say out there on a broadcast anyway. And well, if
people keep asking for more analysis, and they love it when you do it. So
yeah, well, see that maybe that's part of the strategy. Absence makes the heart go fonder. I'm not around very often, so when I am on there, it counts.
Don't oversaturate the market. Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I did YouTube, I've given it some thought, because I'm a sucker for a really good story or something like that, and I found myself thinking, what type of content do I enjoy watching? And I've watched a lot of people who do, sort of YouTube video essays breaking down, whatever the heck they want to be breaking down. Right. Hey, I know a lot of people don't actually read Lord of the Rings, but let's take a look at this. Here's some maps, here's some drawings, here's what everyone's doing. And it's like, oh, okay. And it all kind of fits it together in that very digestible what was Aragorn doing before Frodo left for Rivendell? What was going on there? And there's a lot of stuff like that I really enjoy, and I'd probably go along some type of lore YouTuber for any random game that I enjoyed, or do something like that. That seems like something I'd have a lot of fun with at the very least.
Well, if you guys want to find out what Aragorn was doing, let us know in the comments below, and we'll get a Chiefs. We'll force him into a lifestyle he doesn't want to live here. Get on. It's. I think it's important though that you pick something that again back to the passion ideas. You have to care about it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's not even just because I want other people to care about what I'm saying. I need to enjoy it for me personally. Because if I don't enjoy it, it's gonna drive me into the floor and just grind me down. And I can't handle that.
Yeah, I am curious though on just again because of the uniqueness You kind of covered it, but because of the uniqueness of your job, what you do, you are a personality telling stories, and social media is, as you even said, is a big part of a lot of people in this careers or this field's job, or how they continue to get themselves gigs.
Yes, it is a marketing tool for people in our profession.
And again, I hate social media. I think it's destroying our society, but I have
Topic
to be
for
on
its
it,
own
right?
video.
I have to be on it. But there's always, when it comes to creation, for me is I always have that kind of nagging feeling in the back of my head that when I'm and I do believe I've talked about this on another episode, that I have to create, like, sitting down to play a single player game is very difficult, because I'm like, well, I could be streaming this. I could be making a YouTube video about this. I could be
The process.
in actually relaxing is hard. Do you ever find it? Does that come to you, or is it that's not even a problem? Or, and if it was, how have you
Does
shut
it come
that
to
down?
me that I'm sitting around not applying myself enough?
I guess or enjoying your time on your own time is the way I would phrase it. It's like you're sitting there being useless. You're enjoying your time.
That's an interesting question.
He didn't, and now that I've mentioned it, that's all he's going to think about.
I've definitely experienced the sensation before.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit right now. I realize that, like, look, if I'm going to keep doing this job, I should probably engage with it a little bit more across all of its various aspects, because that will benefit me the most in the long run. I suppose the only thing that would really fix that for me is I have to actually sit down and take a concerted look, put a concerted effort forward to sit there and think, okay, if I want to engage more in this aspect of my job, how do I do that? And what does that look like? Because the most important part for me is how that feels for me, and whether or not it's the optimal path is irrelevant. So do I ever kind of get the sense of, you should apply yourself a little bit more through whatever project I happen to be doing? Yeah, certainly. But it's not to a, it doesn't impact my level of enjoyment of whatever I'm doing, if that makes sense. It's kind of just like, you could be capitalizing more right now. You could be. And should I be? Yes, probably. Because if you put any number of people in my situation, the world's a big place. There's a lot of people with a lot of drive. And, it's more the question of, if I didn't have my job, what would I do tomorrow? And,
that's a stress on its own, yeah.
That I have sat there and talked to myself a little bit about what I would do, and there's some sense of safety and at least having some sort of plan there for me. So wouldn't say that necessarily impacts my, I'm going to sit down and play this game for 6 hours, and I'm not going to feel bad that I didn't stream it. Because again, I have already made the decision that streaming is not a path that I want to go down.
Maybe
so it doesn't click in that same space for my brain.
I guess. I wonder if that's part of my problem, is that I constantly have my toes in that water, right? And so it's this indecisiveness of, like, I'll stream once or twice a week, and then when I'm not streaming, I'm suddenly like, I'm feel guilty. I'm like, I should be streaming because people see me streaming and putting effort towards streaming, even if it's 1%. It's like, I'm putting that effort forward. I should be putting my all forward to it. But then I have
sleep when you're dead, Leaf.
Well, yeah. If I don't sleep now, I'm going to be there a lot sooner. Yeah. But then I have. I'm constantly trying to tell myself to just do, the past 2 days, I guess I'll say now, I've actually really been grinding the past 2 days, or 3 days actually now. That time's flown. I said, you know what? I'm not going to stream or anything today. I made a decision. So I suddenly didn't feel guilty once I made the decision, I'm not streaming today. I'm not going to stream tomorrow because I've made that decision and I'm not sitting on that fence.
The active decision process,
which prevents me from even doing things some days. I'm assuming this happens to a lot of people. It happens to my partner at Tesla as well, where you'll sit there for 3 hours doing nothing because the whole time you're trying to figure out what you should be doing. And you're just like,
doing nothing in life is XP waste, Leaf. What are you doing?
gotta be grinding. Well, I've been gaining XP. I'm working. We'll see it. I want to surprise people with it if I can do it, but I want to try and make a small 10 to 15 minute video game. So I've been grinding Unreal Engine 5.
Like what was that game called? I think it was called A Short Hike. There's a game.
Oh, I know that one. Is that the bird? Yeah. The bird one?
Yeah. It's like a game that's under an hour, and like I've seen some YouTuber talk about it. He's like, this game was amazing, and it's only under an hour, but everything about it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I was like, see, now that sounds like a lot of fun. A specifically curated experience. That would be very cool, Leaf.
Is going to be Rocket League related. It's not going to be Rocket League gameplay, obviously, but it will be Rocket League. I actually might come to you for something on that.
Okay.
But we'll see if I can get there. I'm assuming for me at minimum to get something even slightly cohesive is probably going to take me 6 months.
It takes time.
You realize, already going to school for programming, I already know how difficult it is to create working code. But making levels, making assets, making materials,
I sat in the Unreal Engine for a few hours trying to make like this RLCS trophy case like room, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is insane.
It is. You start to realize why dev teams are so big, and there's
goodness gracious
people dedicated to individual things.
Yes, there's definitely a lighting team.
Dude, I'm so happy with Unreal's Lumen system because I can just avoid for now baking lights, because baking lights is an art form, dude.
They gave me the most user accessible way to actually design a level, and I'm like,
still like.
They literally took everything difficult out of doing it, and it's still so hard.
It's crazy. I will say, shouts to that team, because Unreal is a relatively intuitive flow.
I opened it, and I don't use Photoshop, so it felt like I opened it and it's like, great, I just opened Photoshop and had no idea what any of the tools did.
Yeah.
that's kind of what it felt like. It's like there's just a bunch of buttons here that I don't know what they do.
Yep. Yeah, no, but, I was following some guy's tutorial, and I wasn't even pausing. Well, I definitely paused quite often, but at most parts of the video, I was just following along, click, 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 press this, click, and I'm like, this makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, you realize how incredibly logically it's laid out.
Flows,
and you're like, okay, even if I don't know what it all does, I understand why it's all where it is and how it's supposed to work.
I will still say, though, just scripting a box to move left and right in a loop is ridiculously overcomplicated. That needs to be streamlined.
Logic triggers.
Yeah, I have to create a sequence, and now I have to trigger that sequence, and then I have to make sure that it doesn't reset a loop. It's a little bit of a process.
It's not easy. Making games is hard. For all you people out there who are like, dev team, fix this.
Yeah.
Let me show you. Oh, there was a great YouTube video. A guy, I think it was. Oh, I wish I could remember. He was breaking down how artificial intelligence.
Okay.
I think it was Nikita from Escape from Tarkov.
Okay.
He was talking about like the AI and how it functions, and he went into like AI decision trees, and he's like, "Here's an AI decision tree for like our game or whatever, or some other game," and it was like one ingress point of like, this is the NPC, and then it showed just a huge string of every single possible action that could occur around this NPC, and then it treed off. It was just massive trees of actions to take. And he's like, and here's the AI string for our game, and it was like 4 times as big.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was just like, you people out there saying dev team fix this, show them this graph and be like, this is what they have
Where's
to
the
go
spot?
through.
Where's the spot I gotta fix it? Point it out
Where's
to me.
the spot that broke? And it's literally just like a million different points to analyze. And I'm just like, no wonder things take forever, dude. Literally every part of the game is like this.
And maybe it's just my beginningness to it, and it'll start making sense. But some of the node names, I'm like, why is this called this? And trying to like look
but
at
after
someone
you
else's
go through
blueprint.
it or watch some video, some guy's going to explain why it's that, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's brilliant.
That's the thing I need to do next, just go understand what all the nodes actually mean.
Because I guarantee you there's some stupidly logical reason for why it's that.
I know
probably something stupid like literally something as simple as file naming structure.
Yeah. I know the one that creates a number. That makes
And
sense
there
to
you
me. What does this one do? It makes a number, and you can input it into another node with that number. It's very, very. The flow is very good, which I like. So I'm looking forward to grinding that. But the point is, I took my time and I said I'm going to do this. I'm not going to stream, and then if I am going to stream, if I'm playing a game on my computer, I'm like, I should stream. Then I'm just going to stream, and if I need to be done in an hour or 2 hours, make it a short stream.
Be done.
It doesn't have to be a 6-hour stream every single time, right? And allowing myself to take those moments in stride when I feel like I should be doing them has made me want to do things more often, which has been cool.
You know, maybe I don't know if you're a type of person where a dedicated plan helps or hinders you. Like,
No, having okay, so. I've talked about this on other episodes too, but the process I have
structure
right
your
now,
enemy or friend.
Yeah. Structure works for maybe a day.
Sure.
And then it's easy for me to just say, well, I'll start that next hour and next hour.
Again, with no accountability for your structure.
Well, it's really so. Again, one of the big things with ADHD is that there's just the highway carrying dopamine doesn't work very well. So the idea even of starting something, my body's not saying, oh, good idea. Here's a little bit of feel good to start that thing, which most people will have. They can be like, oh yeah, start going and folding the laundry. I know it'll only take 2 minutes, so I'll go get it out of the way. For me, it's very difficult because it's like it's almost it's almost physically painful for me to start that process because it just feels so uncomfortable and unhappy even thinking about starting that process, right? Yeah. So I go and do something that makes me happy. I quick jump on, play Marvel Snap, play a game of Rocket League, something that will give me that dopamine kick. Right?
Suddenly you've got 3 months worth of laundry to fold. The anthill has become a mountain.
Yeah, no, I'm very bad at getting that. So starting processes is hard, but then if I just tell myself I'll do the thing as my brain has that dopamine kick of like, okay, go learn some Unreal. Okay, go play this video game. Okay, go answer this text. Then I do it then, and all of a sudden I'm more incentivized to, like, I want to do things more often because I don't feel like I'm constantly in a state of hating everything I'm doing around me because I'm doing it out of order. And sure. Structure is a problem in that sense because I'll get to that moment.
You'll feel obligated and you won't want to, and getting over that hill is very difficult.
So what I've done is I use TickTick. It's a to-do app that overlays on my phone, and it just comes up and says, hey, do this thing. And I can click snooze 15 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours, do it tomorrow. And I often do that. I'll push things off for 5 days. But guess what? I do eventually get to it, and without having it written.
Sponsored.
Yeah, no. By the way, this episode is looking for sponsors. If you, but the thing is, like, if I didn't write it down in the first place, I would have forgotten it existed. And
you wouldn't have even done it at all.
Right.
Yeah. So you're satisfied with at least the process being completed, and you have gotten over the most difficult hurdle I have found for most people regarding almost any project that they want to undertake. Do you know why so many people struggle to start writing papers?
Because they don't know where to start?
They never start.
Oh, that's true.
They don't get anything on the page. Nothing.
Yep.
And that is the biggest enemy, is actually beginning the process. I've found that the most important thing for just about anything, if it comes to productivity, is you must have a starting line. And you must be willing to cross the starting line. It does not matter where the starting line is or what the starting line is, but you must have a dedicated place
Yeah.
to start. And you have to be willing to look at that and say, okay, this is where this begins. And it could, like you said, your starting line is I got an app and it tells me when to do things, and I can hit the snooze button, but it's going to keep reminding me, and I will get it done.
Uh-huh.
You have your starting line. You put it in the app to tell you to do it.
That's one thing, yeah. And well, and the next step to that is I've been using Notion, which is you can create a whole workspace. It's like a second brain kind of thing. You can create tables, you can create Word documents, you can create just lists of pictures. We have all our recipes in there, everything, and it's very nice because if I come up with an idea, but the biggest thing I had to teach myself is that to not be disappointed in myself that I pushed it off 5 days. So you know what, that's okay because I know I will get to it when I feel I need to get to it. Same with writing stuff.
You treated yourself like your friend, Leaf. That's great.
No,
that is good.
It shouldn't I treat myself as an enemy? Then I have internal conflict that generates creativity okay.
Okay, I see where you're going with that, Frog. But you're taking what was said out of context. It was external conflict, not internal conflict.
All right, so I'm going to go out and make some enemies on the street real quick, and they'll inspire me.
Internal harmony.
Yeah.
A very powerful thing I heard was treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. Because, if you're going to sit there and talk to your best friend like, geez, you stupid idiot, you should have started your paper 3 months ago. Well, they're not going to be friends with you very long. Surprise, surprise, you're not going to come to like yourself if you do that all the time. That is true.
Again, the other thing is like now I've been writing down, the second I have an idea, I open up I have a thing. So I have one for my 3 different YouTube channels now that I can click new idea, click generate outline. And then it's a sectioned off thing that I can see the title of what maybe this video will be. And then in it is a script. And I just start writing. I realized I'm just going to start writing it. And
you can prune whatever you want later, but get it out.
And I also had to tell myself, though, that some of these videos won't be enough to make a video. I might only come up with 2 paragraphs, but that's okay. Maybe I can use those somewhere else. But getting it down has helped me generate. In this time that I've been doing TickTick and Notion, I now have started the podcast. We're on episode 9. I've gotten it put onto Spotify. I have my secondary channel, which I started without telling anyone, and it's already over 30,000 views on like 6 videos. I have my main channel. I just put out 1 video. It just got over 20,000 views on 1 video. And I've also finished a bunch of single player games that I've wanted to do. I'm learning Unreal Engine. All of this is after telling myself, don't worry about failing. Don't worry if one of these things you start don't come to completion, and just do it when you want to. It's incredible. I'm looking back now how much I've accomplished. I've accomplished more in 6 months than I have in 3 years.
You get a lot done when you start, don't you?
So if that's incentive for anyone out there to just put pen to paper and start going, or fingers to digital keyboard, just start it, because it's incredible how much it goes.
Doesn't matter what it is.
It's wild.
Does not matter.
Anyways, that whole speech was to inspire you to start your YouTube channel. Okay.
Thank you. I'll get right on that.
No, I would be interested. I think a lot of people. Again, you were recommended for this podcast. I've seen your name a few times now, so people do want to hear what you have to say. So, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about a bunch of stuff. I have a whole bunch of other stuff, but I want to get you on in a future episode, because we have to remember we're doing your branding for you as your friends.
Thank you. So I'll make sure to pay your consulting fee after we get off the screen.
We'll spread your screen time to a couple episodes, so as much exposure as possible. So yeah, I think we'll end it here, because this was honestly, in my opinion, it was a very dense discussion. It might not be as long as some of the episodes, but
it reminds me of a painting I saw one time at where was it? I think it was at my college's art museum we had or whatever, and they put a bunch of student done and other stuff that they brought in from outside places, and the painting was titled "A Conversation with Jane." And it was just a bland, red background, nothing fancy, but then it had a bunch of random stuff, sushi, the Marvel, all types of different topics. And I was like, oh my God, this is the first time I've looked at a painting and understood the idea. They talked to someone about all these things and they turned it into a painting.
That's awesome.
So it was brilliant. So
Achieves
I'm glad
understands
you think it was
art now.
dense. So go make your own A Conversation with Achieves painting, Leif. I hope I've inspired you.
I'll make it in Unreal to practice my.
There you go.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, this was good. It's always a great time chatting with any of you guys. Again, that's why I said from the beginning to bring full circle, we got a great group, and I'm glad that you gave me your time to sit down and chat. And the other people could listen in. Usually it's in the green room, and that's mostly not broadcastable stuff.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy.
It's wondrous. So again, Ajib, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was an absolute treat to be here, Leif. Thank you for having the idea to have this podcast and ask me to be on it. And of course, everyone else who requested me so that he actually did, thank you as well.
And I'm going to post all of his socials down there just in case something starts happening on them. We'll see,
Yeah, in case I actually post an Instagram photo, decide to say, man, you guys should check out this Rocket League team on my Twitter, or I don't know. Who knows what the future holds?
Maybe the picture of a cat. That's cool too.
There's plenty of those. We've got tons of those.
I am sad we didn't get a cat interruption. Cole had a dog interruption. We didn't.
She was walking in and out a few times yelling at me at the start, but she clearly got sick of me ignoring her. So.
Guess he's doing important business. I'll get out of here. No, actually, if she thought it was important business, she probably would have been all over the keyboard.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what cats do.
She jumped up like one here on a CRL broadcast, totally crashed the thing. Jess made a whole pumpkin out of it for Halloween. It was funny.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Anyways, thanks so much, dude. I appreciate it. And remember, we are on Spotify. If you want to go listen, if you prefer just the audio. Actually, Spotify does video too. So all the videos up on Spotify now.
Future.
Yeah, directly uploaded, which is really cool. So go check that out. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next episode.